This is Force 13 Live, another update on Hurricane Irma, which continues to progress towards the Caribbean islands right now. It continues to intensify as well. It now has winds of 140 miles per hour and a pressure of 943 millibars as of the 8 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time update from the National Hurricane Center, which was just a few minutes ago. A hurricane warning as you can see on the map, is in effect for Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, for Saba, St. Eustatius and St. Martin, and St. Barthélemy. A hurricane watch is in effect for Guadeloupe, the British Virgin Islands, the US Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and its islands of Vieques and Culebra. A tropical storm warning is in effect for Guadeloupe, and a tropical storm watch is in effect for Dominica. So, tropical storm warning put in effect there as well in the last few hours. I'm joined by Orlando and Isaac. My name's Nathan Foy, by the way, and we're taking a look at the satellite imagery of Irma in the recent frames. And Orlando, what are your thoughts?
Well, Irma currently is getting very powerful. I believe, if I heard correctly just moments ago, that it's now 140 miles per hour, and that's very dangerous. That's a very dangerous Category 4 hurricane that is supposed to be heading for the island of Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles, including the Virgin Islands. Now, if there's going to be a landfall there, still remains uncertain, but it's still a possibility that the core can go over any of those islands. Overall, it's just pretty bad, and if should move on, you could see the visible graphic. It's not looking good. You can see the eye clearly showing up on satellite imagery. Night has fallen over it, so it's not as good quality. So we can't use the GOES currently, but that's what it looks like right now.
Yeah, and you can see the context of the storm as it approaches the islands there, and I think it's pretty much assured that hurricane conditions will occur in the hurricane warning area before it moves further on towards the west-northwest, and it could near Category 5 intensity. Isaac, what do you think about the future of Irma?
Well, I think it definitely needs to be watched carefully, and also, I mean, it definitely is possible for it to become a Category 5. I mean, just looking at it right now, if it doesn't go into an eyeball placement cycle all of a sudden, I mean, it's definitely on the cards that it could get up to a Category 5
Indeed.
intensity storm. And people over in Puerto Rico and over there and those Lesser Antilles and all that need to be watching this too. And in the long range also, Cuba and Florida need to be watching this because it might be potentially heading their way.
Yeah, do you have the model runs there, Orlando?
Yes, I actually happen to do.
So you can see quite a lot of, well, the statistical models on the outlier there recurving, and it doesn't look so likely that's going to happen. Though, is it continuing to trend south, and potential landfalls on the Greater Antilles there, which would certainly inhibit the storm massively?
Yeah, it would, if it was to do that, which is now becoming a little less likely than previously thought. It would basically inhibit future development, and it would take longer for it to get reorganized, although the conditions for the long term is supposed to be pretty decent overall. But right now, it's not looking very nice, and it seems that this might be a little wrong for me to say at the moment, but I think, personally speaking, this could easily become a Category 5 in the next 48 hours as it tracks towards the Lesser Antilles.
If you could actually go over it, I know you've got the intensity forecast models there as well, what they're saying at this time.
Yeah.
Because quite a few of them, or did say Category 5, looks like one or two of them have backed off a little bit now.
Yeah, right now the only one showing Cat 5 is the HMON model, which is shown as HMNI. It's actually predicting to, although it might sound like a fantasy,
I think it's crazy.
yeah, to go ahead and become a Category 5 and go sub 900.
Yesterday, the same model predicted a 200-mile-an-hour peak, so that looks very unlikely. But you can see what you don't look at the outliers, you look at the consensus, and the consensus there shows, with the storm already being 140 miles an hour, it looks like 150 miles per hour should be attainable, and it will maintain Category 4 intensity for quite some time, it would appear, before weakening, and the weakening will most likely occur due to a landfall or a near landfall in Cuba, which is what the National Hurricane Center is currently predicting. Isaac, what do you think about potential threats for the southeastern United States? Florida obviously will want to know all about this. Already a state of emergency has been declared there.
Yeah, in the long term, if we could go back to the models, Orlando, in the long term, the models are wanting it to go over either passing really close to Florida or making a landfall in Florida as a Category 3 or Category 4 storm. And most of the models are over intensifying this when it makes landfall. Like I believe yesterday I saw the GFS have it make a landfall in Florida as a 80 millibar storm. So I mean,
let's hope not.
But definitely a major hurricane landfall is not out of the cards, and they need to be watching this really carefully over the next coming days, because it might be coming their way after Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles. So definitely keep an eye on this.
Now, earlier when we were live streaming, the models were sort of 50-50 almost on whether it would strike western Florida or eastern Florida. It would now appear that as though the models have somewhat decided that it's going to end up hugging the east coast and potential slowing down of motion as it curves away from Cuba.
Yeah, that's... Well, you can continue if you'd like.
Oh. Well, it depends on, because there's there's a front over the United States right now, and it's expected to move over towards the Florida area, and there's also a Bermuda high that's making the storm drag a little bit more south, and it just depends on the timing of that front. The more closer it is, the more it's going to go to the east, like the models are saying. The farther west it is, then the more it has of making a direct landfall over Florida and going more on the western hit towards Florida.
And go ahead.
I was going to say also, I've noticed previously that, and even now, it looks like just ever so slightly the Irma has just been tracking a little bit to the north of what the NHC forecast points have been putting out. And that could also possibly affect the 00Z input from the models, which should be coming out in the next hour or so.
All right. And just to reiterate, or to clarify perhaps, on when the storms are expected to impact these areas, the Leeward Islands and Lesser Antilles, that's going to be Tuesday night, and the onset of tropical storm force winds could occur Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday morning, early hours. It'll be probably a nighttime closest pass for places like Barbuda, which could well be in the eye wall or even in the eye of the storm according to the current forecast. Also very close to the eye will be St. Martin and Anguilla by the looks of things, and then the northernmost British Virgin Islands as well may be rather close to the centre of the storm too, though northern coast of Puerto Rico indeed may well see hurricane conditions as the storm goes through its closest pass there Wednesday afternoon into the evening hours. By Thursday morning it will be making its closest approach to the Dominican Republic, and then onto Haiti. Concerns for Haiti will be the most elevated on Thursday afternoon and evening, and same too in the Turks and Caicos Islands. May well be a landfall on one of those islands, and then along the coast of Cuba Friday morning all the way through until the end of the weekend, most likely for some parts of Cuba, and then if any threat to Florida is realized, that will probably be on Saturday night at the earliest, into Sunday and probably Monday, Tuesday. Now let's go on to the sea surface temperatures, if I may, and take a look at what's ahead of the storm. Over here.
Sorry. Well, currently, what it looks like at the moment is the storm itself is somewhere along here. The storm is supposed to continue like a slight west-southwest, but then just go westward and then turn northwest.
Yeah, a bit further north than what you're indicating there. It's around the 29 zone, though.
Well, yeah, but then it's just supposed to move over, and when it gets over here, that's where I'm a little concerned about, because that 30 degrees Celsius waters could give a boost, just enough for it to just strengthen slightly and become stronger than it currently is, which it's already strong enough to be a considerable threat for any land area.
And what's significantly concerning is the 30-degree temperatures off the Bahamas, too.
Yeah.
Or within the Bahamas.
That's another part as well. This area where it could possibly get to, if it doesn't interact with Cuba that much and its core stays off the coast, this could become a very terrible situation for anywhere along the Florida coastline, which is still possible, and it's on the cone currently for possible threats later on this week. And the Cuban coastline, if it fails to stay out and get stronger, either way, it will still be a considerable threat for either land zones.
Let's move on then and take a look at the wind shear graphic that you've also got to present for us. And either of you, if you want to talk about what we're seeing here.
Well,
No, go. No, go. I wasn't going to say that much.
Currently, the wind shear right now is very, very considerably low over Irma. But you see to the north that there's a bubble of high wind shears that would seem quite unfavorable, but that is just going to be pushed while Irma's moving. So basically, this bubble wouldn't be any threat to Irma's existence or strengthening whatsoever. But besides that, everything seems that it's golden for the storm, unfortunately.
Yeah, wind shear very low in that area near Hispaniola.
Yeah, and that's another area that's concerning as well, because if that's the case, then this is just setting up for a track for disaster if it just goes through here.
The best analog for Irma right now is Hurricane Donna of 1960, and I'm pretty sure people remember what that did. It made a Category 4 landfall in the Marathon area in the central Florida Keys, and then moved through the state and then went on to the East Coast. Whether it will reach the East Coast of the United States remains to be seen, but the threats right now are certainly very very concrete. Do we have anything else to show here? I can't remember if we did.
Well, I think if you'd like, we could pull up some of the floaters.
Just briefly. Do you want to finish up here? Do pardon me, by the way, my voice, because I'm still rather unwell here on this update, but we're still going. And just to let everyone know, we will be doing a more live coverage on Tuesday, and we may well begin 24-hour coverage on Tuesday because of the situation with the storm and how the need for updates is getting more and more pressing by the hour.
Yeah, it's not looking good whatsoever. And Irma's eye seems to be getting really ragged, but that's for another time. But anyway, right now it's sort of on track currently. I don't know if that's going to be the case later, but it's currently on track, and the last point of where it was just to the north of the pinpoint put out by the NHC. But besides that, it's just moving just about where it's predicted, but it's still a little slightly north. That could lead to a difference in the forecast, or maybe not. But we'll just have to wait and see.
And the last thing we'll want to see is the storm's eye moving south of the projection there. Isaac, any final words before we finish up with this update?
Well, as you can see around with that water vapor emerging, you can see the dry air stated in yellow. That really shouldn't be an issue with this particular storm. I mean, if it was a tropical storm, it would have had issues, but since it's a well-defined hurricane, shouldn't really have too much of an issue. And I think we have the NHC graphical outlook there, do we, Orlando? Or is that something else?
Well, NHC, yes, yeah, that is the NHC graphics. I could pull that up. But, right.
Really short. Yeah, really shortly we have obviously Harvey, Irma there.
I thought
and
died.
And you can see what the NHC is thinking. Basically, bottom line before we go is everybody along Puerto Rico, Lesser Antilles, Hispaniola, Bahamas, Cuba, and Greater Antilles, Bahamas, Cuba, and Florida need to be watching this, as well as the eastern coast later on. Just need to watch this carefully over the next few days, and that's really all I have to say.
As I've been saying throughout the whole of Irma's life, really, I've always agreed with the National Hurricane Center's cone, and I still don't see any reason to disagree with what the current cone says right now. Certainly for track, for timing, probably about right as well. But movement may well slow down towards the end of the week as it moves towards the central part of Cuba and towards southern Florida. And I do wonder just exactly what will occur, and I think there will be a lot of uncertainty around that time as to exactly what we're going to get from Irma in terms of United States impacts.
Not only that, but also another thing to bring up is if it's going to miss the Florida coast like Matthew did, or is it going to actually make landfall?
Yes, indeed. Well, we'll have more updates on this storm throughout tonight in English and Spanish, I expect, and tomorrow, of course, and we will be live with more updates on air during Tuesday especially, and obviously when the storm impacts, which will be Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. On Force 13, you can find us on our social pages on Facebook and Twitter, search Force 13 all in text. You can also add Fool 13 on Skype, FOOL13, and add extension 9094 on Discord. We'll be back again soon. Thanks to Orlando and Isaac and myself, Nathan Foy. We'll be back soon with more updates on Irma.